If journalism was a cocktail, it would start with a clean slate, mix up different flavours from a variety of sources, and then lean on classic elements to deliver a tasty treat. That's why tonight we're making a well-known cocktail with a journalism twist. We're calling it good old-fashioned facts. We'll start with a clear glass because journalists are all about transparency. Prep that glass by rubbing a section of orange peel around the outside, rind side up. Set that peel aside for later. So we're going to add 2 ounces of bourbon. I'm using Horse Soldier bourbon from a local distillery here in St. Petersburg because we know that the best journalism focuses on local. So we've got that one in. Then we add 3 to 4 dashes of aromatic bitters. Now, look, you may disagree with the sauce taste, but it's an important element to the whole recipe turning out just right. Mwah. All right, next to this, 3/4 teaspoon of pure maple syrup. Why, you ask? Well, because connoisseurs want their news just a little bit sweeter. Now, think of this cocktail spoon as an editor. You'll pour over things and make sure the mix is just right. Then you want to add ice, give the whole thing one more stir, blend it all together. And as we say in fact-checking on journalism, it never hurts to go over it one more time. Add 1 maraschino cherry, like so, and take the orange peel and give it a twist over the top to release the oils. Drop it in just like that and serve it immediately. We like to get our facts, old-fashioned or otherwise, out there fast, as long as we've got them right. Look, as journalists know, the best stuff you consume comes from multiple sources. When you mix up a variety, but stick with the guiding fundamentals, you end up with something tasty and reliable. That's the secret of great journalism. And this is our good old-fashioned facts. Cheers to the Poynter Institute. Cheers to fact-based expression. Cheers to journalism. Enjoy the evening. Celebration of the free press, democracy, and the esteemed career of Chris Wallace. Cheers. Not bad. Good evening and welcome to the Poynter Institute celebration of journalism. Thank you for joining us. There we go. There we go. My name is Jeff Cowan. I'll be your MC tonight as we honour the free press, democracy, and the esteemed career of Chris Wallace, all while supporting the Poynter Institute in its mission to elevate the craft of journalism and for those who create it and for people like us who depend on it. A free press is essential to our democratic way of life. Independent, factual information enriches communities and helps us make decisions in our daily lives. Tonight, we'll see that because of journalism, we are better informed. We are more connected, we are safer and healthier. Before we get started, I'd like to express our gratitude to all of our sponsors for their support. To our presenting sponsors, Hearst, Red Apple Group, Fox News, thank you so much for your generosity. I'd also like to extend a special thanks tonight to the Sembler Company, who sponsored tonight's attendance of the young men and mentors of Poynter's Right Field program, and to the champions in our hearts, the Tampa Bay Rays, for their decade-long support of the right field. On behalf of the hundreds of young men who've benefited from your program, thank you and go Rays. Go Rays. There you go. Yeah. We'd like to offer gratitude to our VIP and Friends of Poynter ticket holders and to the Lumina Foundation who sponsored the VIP reception earlier this evening. Tonight's celebration was also made possible by sponsors listed here. To all of our sponsors and to those of you who have already registered and donated, bid on trips or use the Buy Now function to buy a trip or enter the raffle to win a $100 bottle of fine Italian wine, thank you. Folks, you are in for a lively evening filled with powerful storytelling and moments that will help you recognise the importance of journalism. You have an opportunity to bid on incredible experiences like an Italian holiday at Lake Como, a scenic drive across the road to Hana in breathtaking Maui, or finally cross African safari off the old bucket list. Now, the best part of all is you have 2 to 3 years to take any of these trips of a lifetime, while you support journalism and the work, of course, of Poynter. So be sure to bid early and often. You can also use the buy now function and secure trips now. No need to wait to see if you're the winning bidder. And bon voyage. And remember to click on the buy now button to enter the raffle. For a donation of only $10 per chance, one lucky winner will receive a glorious $100 bottle of Italian Brunello. Compliments of Mazzaro's Italian Market in St. Petersburg, Florida. I'll announce the winner at the end of tonight's program. Speaking of Italian, there's also a gourmet Italian dinner box in the buy now section, so check it out. The silent auction will remain open for another 20 or so minutes. If you're pre-registered for the event, please browse and bid now. If you're tuning in on social media and want to participate in tonight's fundraising activities, please text Poynter, that's Poynter, or R, to 72727 to register and bid. So let's begin our evening. We start with a look back at this historic year.
In a major escalation in tensions between the U.S. and Iran, the top Iranian general has been killed in an airstrike.
All 176 people on board died.
Kobe Bryant has been killed in a helicopter crash. It happened this morning.
The Centers for Disease Control is reporting the first case of coronavirus has made it here in the U.S.
Partiers on spring break.
This is what the end result is.
We now have a name for the disease. It is COVID-19.
Italy has expanded its response to the coronavirus by locking down the entire country.
I don't really care if I get in trouble for speaking to the media. People are dying. We don't have the tools that we need.
I got some test results back and it came back positive.
The rest of March Madness games will be played without fans.
A growing number of people are dealing with food insecurity.
If adapting to quarantine life all gets a bit too much, there's always the internet.
Oh, and he's hit his mom.
She can watch us and see that we're not behaving.
Another record week for jobless claims.
In states like New York, coroners are creating makeshift morgues.
I said earlier today that I hope we can do this by Easter.
I see.
I can breathe.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Do something. Get in Trevor. Good Trevor. Necessary Trevor.
A star gone too soon. Some of the recent protests against police violence and racism have been met with a federal response.
Massive explosion in Beirut.
This is the perfect storm. It is happening in unprecedented ways.
The Greek alphabet must be used.
We've also seen tear gas being used. Here we go, they're moving through again.
Joe Biden tapping his former rival, Senator Kamala Harris.
Loss of an American icon.
You know what? You're
not true. Here's the deal.
No, sir.
President Trump has just been taken to nearby Walter Reed National Military Medical Center.
Joseph R. Biden Jr. is elected the 46th president of the United States.
Good evening. I'm Neil Brown, the president of the Poynter Institute, and I want to thank you for joining us tonight. The stories we just saw tell the tale of 2020 in all its pain, passion, and poignancy. It has been a year that truly has taken our breath away. What a year. Throughout, journalists have chronicled events, demanded answers, and brought us information vital to our daily lives. They have acted with heart and courage. They have put themselves at risk because they believe, as I know you do, that journalism is not optional for democracy to work. It is essential. Our aim tonight is to celebrate great journalism and to share some of the important work Poynter is doing to advance the cause. We are also very excited to pay tribute to journalist Chris Wallace, who for 5 decades has been a stalwart of honest, tenacious, factual reporting that holds the world's most powerful to account. We start our program, as always, by recognizing the values and vision of Nelson Poynter, the bow-tie-wearing owner and editor of the St. Petersburg Times. Mr. Poynter, who created the institute that you support tonight, believed that citizens need accurate, independent information in order to successfully participate in democracy. Mr. Poynter also believed that communities are best served when the newspaper is locally owned. Today, it is the Poynter Institute that owns his paper, the Tampa Bay Times, and we want to take a moment to salute the Times organization for the great work everyone has done to keep us informed during the pandemic. We are grateful and proud. Please raise a glass to the Tampa Bay Times. As it has with many industries, the pandemic has devastated the local news business. It is estimated that some 7,000 newspaper jobs will be lost this year. 66 newsrooms have closed. 200 counties across America now have no local newspaper. Advertising revenue that supports local journalism is down as much as 42%. Hundreds of TV journalists have lost their jobs as well. Yet in this time of isolation, confusion, and misinformation, we all are reaching for news and information we can trust. In 2020, Poynter has been there to help. We established a web channel to promote strong journalism about COVID, and we pointed journalists to databases to help identify how the virus disproportionately hurts people of color. We have documented the loss of journalism jobs, recognizing that our own industry must be transparent. Poynter's leadership team coached more than 200 newsroom leaders on crisis management. Our Pulitzer Prize-winning website, PolitiFact.com, checked some 2,000 claims before the election. Our media literacy project, MediaWise, helped millions of first-time voters tell fact from fiction on social media. And we work with organizations like AARP to help baby boomers be more skeptical of what they read and watch. One of our anti-misinformation courses was taught entirely by sending text messages to your phone. We ran workshops for reporters and editors on covering protests. We also worked with newsrooms in California, Washington, and Chicago to improve coverage of race and diversity. And we answered journalists' growing need for trauma support. Journalism requires teamwork. It has always been a partnership between journalists and citizens to strengthen our democracy. In that spirit, I'll leave you with two quick stories. When the local newspaper in tiny Weir, New Hampshire, shut down in 2016, the local librarian started his own weekly. Last December, the librarian died, and so 6 volunteers started up the paper using the printer at the library. When COVID hit, they took it online. Citizens and journalists working together. And then there's this. On January 3rd, there were news reports overseas that China had arrested 8 people for publishing false information about a deadly virus spreading in Wuhan. Frustrated by so little publicity about it, a Chinese media researcher contacted the International Fact-Checking Network, a division of the Poynter Institute. She reached the IFCN's Chris Tartaglia, who, like others, suspected these so-called misinformers might actually have been sounding an alarm and were being silenced by their government under the guise of stopping fake news. Chris sent out an email to fact-checkers around the world asking if they wanted to join together to track both the truth and the lies about this new virus. Within 48 hours, 30 organizations had signed on. Chris logged them on 2 sheets of notebook paper, old school. And with those pieces of paper, Chris, Poynter, and the IFCN launched one of the year's most impressive digital journalism projects. It is a worldwide database of nearly 10,000 stories in 40 languages debunking bad information about the coronavirus. So whether it's supporting a tiny local news weekly in New Hampshire, providing guidance and support to the photographers and reporters in the line of fire on the streets of Portland or Minneapolis, or battling the spread of misinformation in a global alliance, Poynter proudly stands ready to advance the cause of quality journalism. We appreciate your support for these efforts, and we welcome your ideas. Thank you, and please enjoy the evening.
Thank you, Neil and the Poynter team, for advancing the cause of quality journalism. we all relied upon so heavily this year, it's quite remarkable that Poynter has been working on finding facts related to the coronavirus since earliest days of January. Impressive to say the least. We are in your debt. Thank you, Poynter. I'd also like to take an opportunity to thank Brian Tierney and Brian Communications, who sponsored the attendance of our MediaWise Teen Fact-Checking Network this evening. Teens, welcome, and thank you for all you do to help your peers find the facts on their social media feeds. Without you taking a leadership role, I'm confident that we can slow the spread of misinformation. Reminder, folks, the silent auction is closing in just a few moments, so get those bids on your bucket list trip now. It is without a question that 2020 is an historic year, as we've witnessed women and people of colour have shattered new glass ceilings. It's important to remember that newsrooms must also better reflect the communities they serve. That's why Poynter has for years offered programs that focus in advancing women and journalists of colour to lead newsrooms. Let's find out more from one of our program leaders.
It's not easy being first, y'all. It's lonely. And don't even get me started on being the only, okay? But if it must be done to blaze the trail for other women and people of color, well, I signed up, and I know I'm not the only one. Hey y'all, I'm Samantha Ragland, lead faculty for one of Poynter's signature programs, the Leadership Academy for Women in Media. Before leading this program, however, I was a 2016 participant with severe imposter syndrome, okay? I then became an application reviewer and then finally a guest instructor twice. Crazy, right? The Academy challenged and changed the trajectory and acceleration of my journalism career. And again, I know I'm not the only one. I know this because I know so many of the 400 women who've graduated over the past 6 years. And with a tight-knit Poynter cohort to support them, these trailblazing women, they're on a mission, okay? A mission to challenge the present and change the future of this very industry. To make our organizations more diverse and inclusive, to build trust with our audiences, to complicate narratives, and to tell more authentic stories. They, we, may have been the first fill in the blank in our newsrooms, but we certainly won't be the last. So cheers. To the cohort, I love y'all. And to Poynter, cheers. And cheers to all of you. Thank you so much for your support tonight.
Cheers to Sam and to everyone in the cohort. When we hear Sam's story of becoming a Poynter faculty member after first being a student and instructor, it demonstrates the transformative role Poynter plays in the careers of journalists everywhere. Perhaps that's why so many of you are being so extraordinarily generous with your support of Poynter tonight. I'm reminded of the generosity we've seen at past Poynter Gala celebrations, like last year when Katie Couric raised her paddle to support Poynter's Leadership Academy for women journalists. The very program we just heard about with Sam a few moments ago. And Lester Holt was so moved by the work of Poynter's MediaWise program that he signed on to help teach young people how to tell fact from fiction in their newsfeed, an assignment he carries forth even today. Let's take a look at how Lester pitched in recently to help from his home with an important message.
If you want to help someone during this incredibly difficult time, you can start right now. Stop spreading misinformation.
Lester, thank you for the helpful reminder. Tonight, you can join Ms. Couric and Mr. Holt as a Poynter supporter by bidding on some excellent wine and wonderful experiences, or making a donation of any amount by clicking the donate button. Each time you support Poynter, you have a direct impact on the quality journalism we all rely on. Remember to bid on those trips now. The silent auction will close in 1 minute. Before the auction closes, let's hear from another Poynter donor you'll recognise with a special message just for you.
This year has taught us a greater appreciation for essential workers, and I think it's never been more clear that journalists are among this elite rank. Good evening, everyone. I'm Joan London, and I'm so very happy to be with you this evening, saluting the essential role of journalists. And I'm also very proud to be an ambassador for the Poynter Institute's MediaWise program. And today, we are celebrating all the essential workers. And also tonight, cheers to the valuable work done by my friends at Poynter. I hope that you will join me in supporting the valuable work of the Poynter Institute, because together, we can strengthen democracy by investing in high-quality journalism. Thank you for your generosity.
Thank you, Joan, and thank you all for your generosity. And with that, the silent auction is now closed. If you're the highest bidder of a dream vacation in the silent auction, congratulations. Poynter will be in touch with you this week to thank you and to share the details. If you purchased a raffle ticket for the $100 bottle of wine, you'll just have to stay tuned. Raffle tickets are no longer available, which means there is a lucky winner out there somewhere. I'll announce the winner at the end of the night. Remember, you can continue to use the Buy It Now button to purchase trips through midnight tomorrow. If you want to make a donation to support Poynter's mission this evening and you're not already registered and you'd log in to our event, you can text FAX to 74121 to make your contribution to high-quality journalism. Every donation makes a difference. Countless journalists and citizens like you have given their time and treasure to support Poynter because Poynter stands for journalism. Consider this. So far this year, the Poynter Institute has given away more than $500,000 worth of tuition to journalists and college educators so they could have access to the support needed to navigate the pandemic, spotlight the fight for social justice, and cover a brisk election year. Why did Poynter make such a sacrifice in a year that brought massive and unexpected business pressures? Because Poynter understands that journalists are essential workers. And just like those working on the front lines in healthcare, teaching our children, or making sure that we can get groceries, receive mail, or grab some takeout from the local restaurants, we also leaned on journalists. All of us can relate to how it felt to be a citizen this year. We reached out to some of our friends working in the field, journalists who share connections to Poynter, to see what it's been like on the front lines. Here's what we found when we asked them, how are you doing?
How are you doing?
Well, you know, I am still here.
Some people are still staying at home, others are flocking to the outdoors again.
I don't have to say, maybe, I'm just saying it to myself right now out loud. It's just been quite a year. So.
Honestly, I was prepared to cover COVID, but I wasn't prepared to be sick.
It's a very serious situation.
I live in Brooklyn. I live near a hospital. The first months of the pandemic were just really scary, and you hear sirens all the time.
It has been somewhat ruinous to my own mental health, and it is very difficult to not be able to unplug from it.
It's so overwhelming that all you really can do is kind of take care of yourself, get a good night's rest, and get up in the morning and do it all over again.
The pandemic is a generation-defining crisis. It has uprooted almost every aspect of our society. It has caused so much fear and anxiety, and there is so much misinformation out there.
It just feels really important when we can get information out about what exactly the need is and who's being impacted, and just also to tell stories that show, the humanity.
I was standing just a few feet away from a woman who was leaving as instructed, but was doing it a little slowly. And we watched her just get tackled right in front of us.
We're sort of living through what our readers were living through.
My symptoms started on March 19th. Photographers, we can't work from home.
As I rewatched the video later, you could hear my own voice telling a police officer that I bumped into that I was just trying to cover the news.
There starts to be tear gas, and you realize, I need a gas mask. I probably should get a stab vest, and I think I need a helmet because a protester just got, fractured skull and brain damage.
It's a very difficult job at the best of times, I think, to do very well and to do ethically and responsibly. And it is especially difficult to do that in a situation like this where things are moving very quickly, when the stakes are so enormously high.
Our job is to crystallize a very complicated world in an 8 by 10.5 inch space.
What would humanize these numbers? And the larger they get, the harder it is to make them feel like what they are, which is real people.
It was definitely helpful for a lot of readers to just be able to say, like, you know, this graphic explains much better than I can the concerns that I have for your safety. And so a lot of people were sharing it with their families and friends.
Good writing, good reporting provides a platform for people to stand in the middle of all that, a rock that allows them to watch everything that is happening around them without drowning in it.
It's been kind of a painful reckoning to realize that I have become a conflict photographer in the United States, in my city, you know, the city where I raise my children.
If people only learn from hindsight, then someone still has to provide that hindsight. Right? So you still need to do the hard work of documenting what is going on so that maybe future generations can learn something from it.
I think that when you're a reporter, you genuinely care about your community. You do it because you want to be a defender of your community.
You can't have a healthy, functioning society if you don't have journalism.
It's fragile, what we're doing, but it's never been more important.
Wow. Seriously, that's extraordinary. So far tonight, we've learned about the important role of journalism this year, and we've seen examples of how Poynter was there to help. Poynter helped journalists, and Poynter helped us. Now it's time for us to return the favour. This is part of the evening which I like to call the bid from the heart. And in the bid from the heart, you're not going to be winning a glorious bottle of wine or going off to an Italian villa or going off on an African safari. You're getting from the bottom of your heart understanding just how incredibly impactful every dollar means to Poynter and all that it does throughout any calendar year, let alone 2020. I'm going to start at some high levels. I'm going to make my way down, and my sincere, genuine hope is that everybody watching right now, whether you're in cyberspace, whether you're logged onto the program, wherever you are, that you feel willing, able, and wanting and needing to give, understanding just how incredibly important Poynter's work is. What I'm going to start off at is what I consider a leadership gift. Now, this could be a family legacy, this could be a business donation, it could be a personal donation, but I'll let you know at this level, it could help support debunk COVID-19 misinformation so the public can access reliable information to keep their families safe and healthy. How many of us wanted that since March of this year? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking for someone now to donate $20,000 to get us started. Appropriate 2020, I'm looking for $20,000 again to debunk COVID-19 misinformation, to be able to help there. You can donate at any stage that you like. I've got a screen here that's showing me, and for those of you out there that want to go ahead and donate immediately, do so, whatever level you like. But I'm looking for that leadership gift right now that would like to jump in at $20,000. It would mean such a world of difference in so many different ways when it comes to Poynter and what they do. I'll give you some time to think, but I'm going to move now to $10,000. At that $10,000 level, it could help support Poynter's news and media literacy program, MediaWise, ensuring that American voters, from teens to senior citizens, know how to tell fact from fiction online. Who would like to join at $10,000? Each and every one of us, I know with my children of 10 and 12 years old, trying to share with them what was going on there, fact from fiction. The honest truth is that, of course, MediaWise helps so much. $10,000. Don Graham and Amanda Bennett, thank you so very much. $10,000 that's in there. Raymond James has also contributed $10,000. Thank you so very much. Who's going to join as well at $10,000? We so appreciate any dollar amount. As we said, it makes such a massive difference. Brian Tierney and the Brian Communications, $10,000. That is extraordinary generosity, knowing just how far-reaching Poynter is. Around the globe, I know we've got viewers right now that are on literally every continent and certainly most countries around the globe, and we thank you for tuning in. That is extraordinary demonstration. What about $5,000? At $5,000, you could provide scholarships for the journalists of colour to attend Poynter training. At $5,000, you could give someone that opportunity to be able to do that. Dr. Judy Genshaft and Stephen Grenbaum, thank you at $5,000. That is amazing. Again, you don't have to wait for me at all. If there's a level that you're comfortable to give, I'm going to make my way down through these levels, but we know that as we go down these levels, I want to make sure that these people are recognised and thanked. Again, at $5,000 could provide that scholarship, that opportunity for a journalist of colour to attend Poynter training. What about $2,500? At $2,500 can allow Poynter to host a nationally recognised journalist for an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at their work, helping build trust between citizens and news media. Who's going to jump in at $2,500? $2,500 would make a world of difference. This is just one area when it comes to Poynter that could help there. Al and Sandy Steinberg, thank you at $2,500. That is amazing. Thank you. Thank you so very much at $2,500. Now, I'll also let you know that this just in, this afternoon, the Bloomberg Philanthropies wanted to come in at the Truth sponsorship level. They wanted their $5,000 to be entered here, and we thank you so very much to Bloomberg for doing that and making that possible. This is what it's all about. As I said, you don't have to wait for me. Susan Bosques at $2,500. Thank you, Susan. Thank you so very much at $2,500. Again, every single dollar counts, no matter what level you'd like to give at. We appreciate it so very much. What about $1,000? At $1,000 can support the PolitiFact's continuous live fact-checking of misinformation and conspiracy theories surrounding election results. You can't tell me that in the most recent times, it's fresh in your minds that how many of us were using that amazing resource to be able to clear away the dust and the debris and the noise to find out what was true at $1,000. Dr. Roy Peter Clark and Karen Clark, thank you at $1,000. I'm seeing you there. Laurie Bergen, thank you for your $1,000. Tom and Hyde Grau, thank you at $1,000. Thank you. That is amazing generosity, and thank you so very much. As I said, it does take a village, as we've clearly seen. I think after 2020, we can all appreciate just how much we need the Poynter Institute and all that it does. That there at $1,000 would be so amazing. Brian Ferrer, thank you, coming at $2,500. Jump in. You can move backwards. I don't have to move forwards. That's at $1,000. Thank you so very much at $2,500. Brian, thank you. I'm going to move down to $500. Now, this can we heard earlier about the amazing work that Poynter's Right Field program do for the young men in the Tampa Bay area. You can help Black and Hispanic middle school boys overcome the achievement gap in Tampa Bay through your generous donations this evening. That $500, everyone, if you think surely that what could that possibly do, will allow that student to participate in those writing classes for an academic year. What an amazing. Kyle Parks, thank you for $500. Woo! That is amazing. Thank you at $500. Who else wants to join in? Joseph DeLuca, thank you at $500. Woo! Kylie Parks comes in a second one. 2 students are going to be $500. And look, you got to remember this too. I had the opportunity of being able to visit there. This is my 3rd year working with the Poynter Institute. And I got to go to the Right Field and got to sit with the students there. On a Saturday morning, I turned to one of the young guys and I said, look, this is completely candid. I said, this is amazing. I said, this must be pretty amazing for you to give up your Saturday morning as a young guy. And he said to me, look, where would I ever get the opportunity to sit in a room and interview these top athletes from the Tampa Bay Rays? He said, this is absolutely extraordinary. Came straight from the mouth, unscripted and known for. Thank you, Maria Wright at $250. Thank you, Maria, at $250. Thank you. Kyle Parks at $500. Every single note could help. So again, we're going to move on down now to the next level for those of you out there. $250, I've got some very, very exciting news. Because if you donate $250 right now, your donation is going to be matched by Newsmatch. That means for the first 40 people that donate $250, it's going to become $500. So if you're considering your options right now and thinking, I'd love to be able to give $500 for the Right Field to get a student through there, well, guess what? We can get 40 more scholarships for those students to go through. If you donate $250 right now, it becomes $500 for the first 40 people. And I would love to use up every single one of Newsmatch's match right now. So please go ahead and hit that $250. Elsie Minkoff, thank you. You started us off. Mary Harris, thank you very much. John Oakes, you've also jumped in at $250. Your $250 becomes $500. It's as simple as that. There's 3. I want more. Doug Wilkin, thank you so very much, Doug. The worst, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know where these people are watching from around the country and across the globe, but thank you so very much, because it'll make an absolute world of difference to those young men right here in the Tampa Bay area. Joyce Hennessy at $250. Thank you. Doris Turung, thank you very much for your $250. Again, you don't have to wait for me. Just go ahead and press that button on your screen right now for $250, and that $250 will become $500. Martha Pacini, thank you, Martha. So incredibly generous for your $250. We are so close to the total, but be absolutely sure of this. I will not be stopping, because there's so much work to do. Could anyone have pictured the year that we've had? From the forest fires in my home country of Australia, coming through the pandemic, this amazing, earth-shattering, historic election, and where we are now in 2020. And as Poynter that's been there, as the journalists that have been there, Paul Tash is coming at $250. Thank you, Paul, very much. Thank you. Laurie Colesborg, thank you for $250. Again, every single one of these $250s, up to 40 matches will be made to make your $250 become $500. And that means another student will go through the Right Field program for a full year. And if you think about that for the student, after just those few moments that I had an opportunity to speak to them, it is a ripple effect. Absolutely it affects them, but it's not just for that year that they're participating, it's for years to come. Maybe we're talking about future journalists, future anchors, like Chris Wallace, who we're going to be seeing in just a few moments. That is an opportunity right there that you have right now. Stephen Buckley, thank you. Laura Cosbelt, $250. This is all $250. Paul Tash, Kevin Lonzo, Johnny Long, Marianne McCockler, thank you so much for your $250. Martha, this is amazing. Jesse Navarro, thank you very much. That is amazing. Yeah, I'll give it up for Jesse there. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to move right now. You can continue to give the $250, because as far as I know, we probably have about 20 of those matches left. But I know we're all very eager to get through to this next part of the evening. Now, I did say at the beginning of this moment of giving that there were no prizes. This is the final level of giving at $100. Now, in this case, I'm going to change the rules slightly, because I said there were no prizes, but in this particular case, there is, and it's a good one. I'm wanting someone to donate $100 more than once. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to give a prize. And this prize is for a 1-night, 2-day stay at the glorious Renaissance Vinoy Resort here in downtown St. Petersburg, Florida, for 2 people, a dinner at the Teak restaurant and cocktails before at the Pier Tiki, which is, of course, the new edition or the renovated edition of the Pier here in St. Petersburg, and tickets to the Dali Museum. That is what you're playing for. Now, this is how it's going to work, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to award that to the person who donates $100 last. Now, everyone understands that every single time you go ahead and donate $100, it will be another $100, right? Every single time you try to get back on top of the group to be the last person, it's another $100. But it's very easy to have someone donate last. I need someone to start me off. Jacqueline McNeil has been the first one. Now, Jacqueline, thank you for starting us off. Everyone, big round of applause for Jacqueline, $100. I will say this. Now, Jacqueline, if I was to say we are closed, which sadly I'm not, but if I was, Jacqueline, you'd win. But everyone understands that every single time Jacqueline tries to get back on top of that pile again for another $100, it's another $100 she's donating. But even if you bid 2, 3, 4 times and you win that amazing weekend in St. Pete, at the Vinoy, at the Tiki Bar, everywhere, it is well worth it. So who else wants to play the $100 game? And by the way, it's a $100 minimum. If you want to put in $250, $500, $750 right now. Laurie Chen's my next one who's just come in. And I'll close this very clearly. I'll say going once, going twice, going 3 times, we are closed. If I say closed and you're the person on top, you win. going once, going, because Laurie right now, going once, going twice, going through. Frank Wiles has just jumped in, going once, going twice, going 3 times, and you, Jesse Navarro, fancy you jumping in there, Jesse, going once, going twice, going 3. Steffi Buckley's come in at $250. Again, if you want to donate that $250, remember it's becoming $500. Frank Wiles is backed in again, going once, going twice, going 3 times. Michael Silver, going once, going twice, going 3 times, and we are. Jacqueline's back in, Bill Mitchen's back in, going once, going twice, going 3 times, and it's a lovely place in St. Pete. I live there locally. I may even meet you. You never know. Michael Silver is back in, going once, going twice. Andrea Hagg's back in, going once, going twice, going 3 times. I need a drink. Andrea Hagg, you're back in again. Deborah Cook's back in. Hit that $100, because let's remember, 5 of you that donate $100 means that that's another scholarship for the right field, or another portion of that could go ahead and help, of course, the Poynter Institute. Kelly McBride's in, going once, going twice. I've got your credit card, Kelly. Going once, going twice, going 3 times, and we are. Melissa Growl's back in. She was already a big donor already, Melissa. Thank you. Going once, going twice, going 3. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have to put on a 30-second clock, because this is Frank Wiles. Frank, you're very persistent. Well done. Everyone understands. I'm going to stop for a moment. Frank is now donated, I think, either 3 or 4 times at least, right? So that's $300 or $400, and thank you, Frank. At the moment, you're still my last bidder, Frank. But I'm going to go ahead and, sorry, Jake just jumped in and knocked you down. So I'm going to go ahead right now. We're going to put a 30-second clock, and we're going to let technology go ahead and nominate who's going to be the last one. So you know what it's like on eBay? If you ever done any shopping, I know I'm creeping forward. You ever done any shopping on eBay where you've had a bid on there for like 3.5 weeks, and then the final second, 400 people come in and outbid you? Don't let that happen, all right? So I'm going to count this down in the next 10 seconds. Now, of course, there's going to be a little bit of latency between me saying it and you hearing it. So Deborah Cook, by the way, is on top. Elizabeth Coron's underneath. Laurie Bergen's there. Brian Ferrer going once. Here we go. 10, 9, 8. You better hit that number. 6, 7. I better go up, down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Woo! Okay, it's officially closed. Now, I will have my very fine Laura from Cutago, who will give us the official, the winner, and I'll announce that with the wine. But ladies and gentlemen, that was amazing, and you were incredible. I will also say this. We thank you for your generosity. No matter what level you'd like to give, if you'd like to put that onto your device right now, you can put it. If there was a level that I mentioned, or didn't mention, I should say, that you'd like to go ahead and donate, please go ahead and do that. This is going to make a massive difference for Poynter. And now, it's a time you've all been waiting for. In just one moment, we'll throw it back to the Poynter president, Mr. Neil Brown.
Wow. Well, thank you all. It is so very humbling. Thanks, Jeff, for your energy. Thank you all for participating in these crazy times and for extending yourselves so generously to support Poynter. On behalf of everyone at Poynter and the journalists and the citizens we serve, thank you. The Poynter Medal for Lifetime Achievement recognizes the outstanding career of a journalist or member of the media whose work has made a lasting impact serving democracy. Tonight we honor a journalist who personifies one of our most cherished ideals, independence. Tonight we honor Chris Wallace. In this exceptionally polarized time, when punditry gets confused with journalism, when political partisans manufacture narratives and peddle them as news, we celebrate Chris Wallace, an independent journalist who succeeds because he asks fair questions and demands that powerful people stick to the facts. Chris Wallace is often described as a contrarian. You can see why. Chris counted Roger Ailes among his allies and champions, but also vacationed with George Clooney. Chris works for the most partisan of TV networks, but he is known for some of the most nonpartisan TV reporting. Chris is associated with his high-profile father, but was more greatly influenced by his lesser-known stepfather, also a journalist, who launched him on the career we honor tonight. Born in Chicago, Chris attended Harvard, where his roommate was Poynter's own Rick Edmonds. The two aspiring journalists enjoyed a lot of late-night dinners together, and despite Chris's all-business persona, Rick reports that Chris was actually a lot of fun. In 1969, when students protesting the Vietnam War occupied a university building, Chris covered the story for the student radio station. He got arrested along with the protesters, and so he signed off his radio report that morning with, "This is Chris Wallace from WHRB News, reporting from Middlesex County Jail, in custody." Chris got his start as a reporter at the Boston Globe. His stepfather, Bill Leonard, a broadcast man who would go on to be the president of CBS News, had encouraged him to start his journalism career in print. After 4 years at the Globe and stints in local TV, Chris joined NBC and rose to be its chief White House correspondent, competing against the likes of Sam Donaldson and Leslie Stahl. He would become a co-anchor of the Today Show and host of Meet the Press. He was lured to ABC and spent 14 years doing award-winning work for Primetime Live and for Ted Koppel's Nightline. In 2003, Chris Wallace surprised the broadcast world and jumped to Fox. Fox's partisan colors were well known, and it was contrarian to depart the traditional networks in favor of cable TV. But Wallace saw the potential of Fox to reach new audiences and news junkies. He said at the time, "It struck me as almost silly to work at a news organization that wasn't on the air most of the time." His understanding of the marketplace was right. On election night last week, Fox News, featuring Chris Wallace, among others, had twice the audience of the top network, ABC. Chris has won many awards, including 3 Emmys. And in the middle of this amazing election cycle, Chris Wallace found the time to write his latest book, Countdown 1945, a gripping account of the days leading up to President Truman's decision to drop the atomic bomb. At the center of his work, his distinguished work, is one thing: asking the right questions. He asked former President Bill Clinton why he hadn't taken out al-Qaeda before 2001. He asked Vladimir Putin, "Why do all your enemies end up dead?" He confronted President Trump on why his facts were wrong about COVID. And then, at the first presidential debate this fall, he asked President Trump, with little success, to please be quiet. Roger Ailes often toasted Chris Wallace this way. "Chris," he said, "you're a great questioner, and frankly, every guest who comes on hates you." Unlike some journalists who seem to want to grab the limelight, Chris Wallace's questions are not a performance. They are about journalistic pursuit, finding answers for all of us. Take a look.
An ABC News brief. Now from Washington, Chris Wallace.
Good evening. I'm Chris Wallace, and I welcome you to the first of the 2020 presidential debates.
Top Kennedy aides tell us that in his speech to the convention tonight, Kennedy will say that he and Carter will, quote, march together.
You have flirted with the idea of politics. Now you're here at your first national convention. Does that get you interested in possibly making the plunge?
Now you have to tell me something. Who told you I flirted?
Well,
I didn't know that I flirted.
As an underdog, Dukakis found a passion and a message that he never had as a front-runner.
President-elect Bush got off to a fast start after the election, setting up his transition team and announcing his first cabinet appointment.
Now been officially confirmed that there was a missile attack hit very much in the center of Tel Aviv.
Well, you're asking questions that are kind of hard to put in words.
Why is it that so many of the people that oppose Vladimir Putin end up dead or close to it? I understand that hindsight is always 20/20.
Well, let's talk about it.
But the question is, why didn't you do more, connect the dots, and put them out of business?
All right, let's talk about it. Now, I will answer all those things on the merits, but first I want to talk about the context in which this arises.
Said that U.S. had nothing to do with Israeli arms shipments to Iran when you knew that that was not true. Why did you say that?
Well, there is Saturday chicken because after several Saturdays of asking Chris what he wanted to eat, he said, let's stick with chicken, and after all, change is overrated.
I'll bet 2,000.
Okay, here's the clue. The British did not have bon temps in the January 8th, 1815 Battle of this city.
What is New Orleans?
New Orleans, correct.
So interesting.
This is being regarded today as a major concession on the part of the president and an indication that he obviously had to... What happened?
Boy, the NBC...
Can we start again?
Tonight is going to be a lot like the third Lord of the Rings movie. You don't really want to watch, but hey, you've come this far.
Isn't there a fair amount of hypocrisy on both sides, frankly, including you?
I think there's no doubt that Democrats and Republicans have gotten into a fix inside the Senate.
No, the answer to the question is no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you
that is absolutely
you know what, you're
not true.
You're doing it.
You're going to have true, gentlemen. I hate to raise my voice, but it seems to be. Why should I be different than the two of you?
I believe that President Trump is engaged in the most direct, sustained assault on freedom of the press in our history. So far, at least, we don't see anything that would rise to the level of a serious fraud, and certainly not a serious fraud that would change the results of elections. We're not talking about 500 votes as we were in Florida in 2000. We're talking about tens of thousands of votes.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to present the Poynter Medal for Lifetime Achievement to Chris Wallace.
Is this a time when I should be putting this medal on?
Yes, throw it on, big guy.
I have to do it for myself here,
Yeah.
but it's 2020.
Hold it up. Is it too heavy? There you go. It's the real thing, isn't it? Gold.
Couldn't be more honored. And can I just, Neil, before we start, can I just say that damn Australian Jeff got me so excited. I want to give $5,000 to the player. So this is the most expensive award I've ever won. Thank you.
Well, you're a presidential historian, so I'm going to go with mission accomplished. So, hey, Chris, thanks for being with us, and thanks for that gift. Very generous. Appreciate it. We're glad to have it and need the support, but we wanted to honor you no matter what. So thank you. Thank you. It means a lot. So welcome, and it's great to see you. And you have a standing rain check to come. We're going to bring you down to Poynter and to Florida when the time is right, and someday that's going to happen. So we look forward to seeing you in person. But in the meantime, thanks for...
As I said to Neil, I'm thrilled to get this award. I'd like to actually get it in person and to see all of you in person. So maybe next year when you give the award, I can horn in on that person's time in the spotlight.
We've already talked about it, by the way. And as fellow Chicagoans, we're total optimists to say that's going to happen. So thank you. Good. And we'll look forward to it. All right, so we want to spend about a few minutes with you and talk about what's going on in the world today, your career. We've got a great audience that is thinking a lot about journalism, as you could tell from their support. So let's sort of start with the situation right now. You did mention in the last piece of that clip, you lived through Florida. We all did down here in Florida. What do you make of the situation today as you think about this Sunday's Fox News Sunday? What do you think is going to happen in the next week and 2 weeks in this election?
Well, I don't think we're going to see a presidential concession. I think he clearly is going to pursue all of his legal cases. And as a reporter, and I hope a fair one, we have to be open to the possibility that he will find something and his team will find something serious. As I point out, there are really two aspects. One, you got to find serious fraud, and you have to find fraud of a dimension that even if it's true, it would actually flip the election. In other words, if you find there were 2,000 illegal ballots, but it was in a state that he won by 20,000, that's not going to matter in the end. So at this point, if there's something there, we will pursue it. I will say so far, every case of substance has been thrown out. There was just a case in Pennsylvania this evening you may not have heard about, where a poll worker had claimed that she had been the witness to all manner of terrible things, and she just recanted that testimony or that claim. So, we'll have to wait and see. I don't think you'll see the president concede in the next 2 weeks. I'm not sure you'll ever see him concede. I hope at a certain point, though, that if he doesn't come up with the goods, that either he or the people around him will move on and we'll have a more normal transition.
So between your book writing and, of course, all your journalism, I think you started your career as a gopher for Walter Cronkite, maybe at a convention. I may not have that right exactly. But so put this in some kind of context for us, Chris, in terms of as a watcher, as a journalist. Is this election as exceptional as we feel it, or are we sort of heightened by social media and the Trump factor alone? Or is this really something special?
Oh, it's absolutely something special. First of all, the whole 4 years of the Trump administration. And, one thing that we should never forget, there are millions of Americans who love this guy. He got the most votes in history for any president. And I think it's going to end up being now around 71 million, except for Joe Biden, who's going to have about 76 million. So, there's an enormous section of the country that believes in Donald Trump and wants him very much to continue for the next 4 years, but he has conducted himself in policy and especially in personality and comportment differently than any president I've ever seen. And, as I say, we did live through Florida, and that was a very different situation. There was only a matter of 537 votes, so a recount really did have at least the potential to change the outcome, and you had a clearly a legitimate issue worth litigating, I think, the butterfly ballots and the hanging chads and all of that. But, I think it's important to point out this is not normal. Today, because Election Day was later, today was 2 days after the election in 2016, and this was the day that Barack Obama invited Donald Trump, the president-elect, to the Oval Office. They had a meeting, they sat side by side, they met, faced reporters. We're not getting that. We're not getting the transition. The GSA, because the president hasn't okayed it, has not allowed Biden to start getting the PDB, the Presidential Daily Brief from the CIA. His top transition officials are not getting access to classified information or the millions of dollars that are reserved for a transition. So this is very much a one-off, and we'll have to see how long it goes on.
I've got a two-part media question for you related to all of this. First of all, assess how you think the media, the press corps, did in covering this election, and I think, suggested to people that this could take some days. So give us a grade on the media. You've been watching it and been part of it for a long time. And also tell us straight up, what's the mood at Fox these days?
Well, it's an interesting thing. The polls obviously did not accurately predict this election, just as they did not accurately predict it in 2016. And we kept hearing after 2016, well, it's broken. We didn't get the white, blue-collar workers, working class people who were in the upper Midwest, who were the basis for Trump's support and the basis for him breaking down the blue wall of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Well, it seems to have happened again, not only there, but in other parts of the country. I don't know what it would take for me to now read a poll and to believe it. And, on the one hand, I'm not a pollster, I'm not directly involved, but it is something that we at Fox and a lot of other news organizations put out. So I'm troubled at the idea that we're putting out information, one, that turns out to be wrong, and two, that people are losing confidence. And the good aspect of it is that I think polling does become kind of an excuse for lazy reporting, that we don't go out and talk to enough people. We just say, oh, there's a poll in some state, and they think that Biden's there was a poll a week before the election, ABC, Washington Post, that Biden was up 17 points in Wisconsin. Obviously, that was terribly wrong. And, maybe if we'd done more reporting on the ground in Wisconsin, we would have known or had a better sense that was terribly wrong. So, that in that sense, our failure And our repeated failure in 2016 and 2020 in the polling maybe will spur us to do more, on the ground, talking to real people, reporting. As far as Fox is concerned, there's an opinion side of Fox and there's a news side of Fox, and there really is kind of a firewall between them. I would argue more of a firewall than there is at the other cable news station. So, yeah, I suspect there is some rending of garments and some tears and gnashing of teeth on the opinion side of Fox. On the news side of Fox, we on election night, we're the first and for a while only news organization to call Arizona, which really flipped the whole narrative of that night and made it seem that President Trump was going to have a much tougher time than it seemed after he had just won Florida. And as soon as we called it on at around 11:40 on Saturday morning, Fox News, we started, as we should. I'm not saying we deserve awards for that, but we talked about President-elect Biden and his transition. And I had a member, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, as a member of his transition, as our lead guest on Fox News Sunday. I made a point of leading with our reporter covering the Biden camp, not our White House reporter. So I think we're doing a very good, even-handed job on the news side of Fox.
Well, you talk about a firewall. Let's stick with Fox. These are not questions that are going to be new to you in this sense, but is it a firewall to some degree if the audience doesn't realize the firewall is there? So, for instance, you have long said, and I think I even wonder if it's in your contract, the news side, you said Roger Ailes and Rupert Murdoch don't question your guests. They've never interfered with your show. And yet we have this trust in the media problem that, to your point, is certainly true of CNN, MSNBC, and Fox, where the climate is sort of, punditry has been confused with journalism. So how do you navigate that? And do you think, even over 17 years, there's more you can or should do? You asked Senator Romney this about his colleagues on the Republican Party, to speak up about the difference, or about when maybe some of your opinion side colleagues go too far.
There's a lot to unpack there, Neil. I would say that, it seems to me that if viewers don't notice the difference between me and some of my colleagues on the news side, and let me tell you, if you read my emails, viewers know the difference between me and the primetime people, so they get it. They don't always like it, but they understand it. And when I talk about a firewall, the reason I talk about that is, and I don't mean this to be, go after other people, but at Fox, the people who were anchoring on election night, it was Brett Baer and Martha McCallum, and I was the chief analyst, are all straight news people. You watch NBC or MSNBC, and it's Rachel Maddow anchoring the news coverage. It's Anderson Cooper and Chris Cuomo anchoring the news coverage. It isn't our opinion people anchoring our news coverage. So I actually do think there's more of a firewall. I will say something else, because I do get lots of questions about how do you live with, the primetime people. And, I did a thing at Columbia Journalism School with Maggie Haberman. And, I at one point in it, I said, Maggie, do you ever get hammered by people saying, how are you able to live and distinguish yourself from Paul Krugman or Charles Blow, people that are in the opinion page, the op-ed page of the New York Times, who are very, very liberal and certainly as opinionated as anybody at Fox. And I think one of the reasons that the New York Times or CNN or don't get these questions so often is because the media critics, they like what those people are saying, so they don't object to it, as opposed to what our people in primetime are saying, which they don't like, so it becomes more of an issue. But in fact, to me, it's the same issue. There's a news side and there's an opinion side, and whether you agree with the opinion or disagree with the opinion, it's still opinion. Now, as far as me calling them out, Roger, you mentioned Roger Ailes a few times, and he used to say, no shooting inside the tent. And by that, he meant we got enough people coming at us from all sides. We're not going to criticize each other. And if you got a problem, we can talk about it internally, but we're not going to attack each other. And I think that's pretty good advice. I have occasionally strayed, and I've regretted it, not because of any repercussions, as you said. I've been doing this show now for this, just think it'll be 17 years in December next month. I have never been second guessed on a guest.book or a question I've asked. I like to think I'm an equal opportunity inquisitor, and Fox pays me and has paid me for 17 years pretty darn well to do what I do.
So I'm going to stay one more question on this, and then we'll move on to some other things. In the 17 years, would you say, just in general, some of this is obviously at Fox, but beyond, that obviously things have gotten hotter, maybe even meaner in the last... And so I think some of the questions we get about this, and again, I think to your point, I tend to think maybe it's partly a cable question, but when the opinion journalists or the primetime folks you mentioned attack other journalists, does that give you pause? Because right now we're in an environment where, probably thanks to Twitter and others, social media, those things translate a little hotter than they maybe did in 2005.
Oh, I agree. I think it's a mistake. You do live in this hothouse. I have occasionally said things. I rarely, because I really do think it's a mistake. Not to say that, we have to, that we're all like cops and you got to protect the dirty cops. But I don't know. I think it's unseemly to be attacking. I've been the target of it. I hate to sound like Donald Trump, but to the degree that I've done it, I like to think that I've done it as a counterpuncher when I've been attacked first, and I've almost always regretted it.
Let's talk a little bit about the book for a second. So first of all, how do you find time to write a book amid all of this?
Well, you say I wrote it during the campaign. I really wrote it last year in 2019. It came out in June, but there's a lead time. And just very briefly, the book is called Countdown 1945, the story of the 116 days that changed the world. And it begins on April 12th, 45, when Harry Truman, as vice president, is summoned to the White House and finds out that FDR has died. And then 116 days later, he gives the go-ahead to drop the bomb on Hiroshima. Now, that all sounds reasonably grisly. I found after, living and breathing and drinking the fire hose of news in the Trump era, that going back to 1945 was relaxation. It was a vacation. Even in this rather, very daunting, but not especially pleasant story. And the reason was because it was so, the climate was so different. Yes, of course, there were differences, but in political arguments and conflicts, but there was such a sense of unity. This was just at the end of World War II. The country was pulling together. Everybody was trying to do his part for the victory. And the best example I've got is that the Manhattan Project, Roosevelt started it in 1942. It ended up, obviously, with the first test of the bomb was only 3 weeks before they dropped it on July 16th of 45. But by the end, there were 125,000 people, Americans, working on it at Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and Los Alamos, and Hanford, Washington, and not one word ever leaked about it. And in today's world, you could have a project of 125,000 people to make an apple pie recipe, and within 2 days, somebody would go on the internet and say, I'm a whistleblower, and there's something wrong with the apples. And just the idea of this unity of purpose was very refreshing, I have to say.
Well, misinformation about apples remains a challenge for us all, I think, going forward. Let me ask you, do you find any lessons for President-elect Biden out of that story? He may wind up having a small transition too, maybe not by design, but what can you take from the research and apply today?
Well, it's interesting because their situations were very different. Truman was really an afterthought, was put on the ticket because literally the top Democratic Party people, Roosevelt couldn't have cared less who his vice president was. They thought that Truman would hurt the ticket the least. So he was basically put on just as a placeholder. He became vice president. He had been in office for 82 days. Roosevelt had met with him only twice. So when he came to be president on April 12th, in terms of experience and grounding and being brought, he didn't even know about the existence of the Manhattan Project. He was totally unequipped. I think he was very well equipped in terms of his personality and his bearing and his knowledge, but not in terms of being part of the Roosevelt team and knowing all the secrets. Obviously, that's very different with Biden. I would say that, Biden, as Truman did with a lot of economic issues, but prosecuting the war in Europe, which ended a month later, then the war in Japan, and facing the choice of invading Japan, which would have extended the war by probably a year and a half and resulted in 500,000 casualties. Obviously, Biden is coming in a very tough time. COVID, the economy, racial issues, and obviously political polarization. I will say this about Truman's decision-making process. One, he was extremely meticulous. He over and over again examining all of his options. He was, for all the talk about the buck stops here and how famously decisive he was actually very meticulous about making a decision. And he consulted with everybody. And in fact, just before he dropped the bomb on July 20th, he had lunch. He was at Potsdam, Germany for a summit with Stalin and Churchill. And he had lunch with Dwight Eisenhower, the supreme Allied commander in Europe, who told him not to drop the bomb. And he wanted to hear that advice. He didn't take it, but he wasn't put off by the idea somebody was going to tell him something he didn't like. So if Biden ends up being as good a decision maker as Truman was, I think we'll be well served.
We got about a minute left, and I'm going to throw two quick questions at you. One,
yes, sir.
Who do you still want to interview that you haven't yet? And two, what's George Clooney like?
Well, I'll end on that one. I've been asked this before, and I'm going to give an answer that I suspect nobody is going to believe. But I would love if she were really willing, when you hear this, to let down her hair and tell the truth. I would love to interview Queen Elizabeth. And I say this as somebody who is, I'm sure, like a lot of the folks out there, a devotee of the crown. And when you think, she came in 1952. She's had, I don't know how many prime ministers, I don't know how many presidents. She's seen it all. She really has been an eyewitness to history for the last half of the 20th century, now the first 20 years of the 21st. If you could ever get her to actually give her real impressions of people, my guess is it would be absolutely fascinating. So I'll say her. And as far as George Clooney, I'll just quickly tell the story. I think we have a little bit of a bond. It would sound presumptuous to me to say that about George Clooney, because his dad was a newsman, Nick Clooney, an anchorman in Cincinnati. Of course, my dad dabbled in journalism too, and we just got along. And so he invited me in 2012 to go to his villa in Lake Como. And we really didn't know him well. I interviewed him a couple of times, didn't know him, but he invited us to come, and I wasn't going to say no. So my wife Lorraine and I came, and we were a little scared because we really didn't know what it was going to be like to be there. I get there, and about the second day, I get a call from my boss, and he says, this was 2012, that Romney had just announced that Paul Ryan was going to be his running mate, and that Ryan wanted to do an exclusive interview with me, and would I fly back to interview Paul Ryan? Think about it, folks. Leave Lake Como and George Clooney to fly back to interview Paul Ryan. And I said, are you out of your mind? And he fully understood. And as far as what it's like to spend a week in Lake Como and drink sensational Italian wine, super Tuscan reds, and spend
days talking about politics with George Clooney, who incidentally may be the smartest person on politics I've ever met. The answer is just whatever you imagine as to how great it would be, it was even better.
Well, we can only dream, and you're even more normal than we thought, Chris. That's great. Hey, Chris, thank you for this, and congratulations again for this on the award, and really appreciate your donation and spending time with us. So
thank you.
Thanks for a lot. Now, before you,
serious about it,
we're going to bring you down. I promise. Now, before you check out, your colleagues at Fox News have sent in a special message for you. Take a look.
Good evening, I'm Brett Baer.
And I'm Martha McCallum. We at Fox News are so pleased to be proud presenting sponsor of Poynter's celebration of journalism and its service to democracy.
Tonight, we raise a glass to salute the incredible career of our friend and colleague, Chris Wallace.
Join us in a toast to Chris. Congratulations, Chris, from your family here at Fox.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers to you. Oh!
Thank you, Neil, and congratulations, Chris. Before we announce the winner of tonight's raffle, there's someone else who'd like to make a toast. Let's take a look.
Red Apple Group is pleased to return this year as a proud sponsor of the Poynter Institute of Journalism. Tonight, we raise the glass in celebration of free press. And this year, we need a big glass. We want to return to the days where 92% of the American people believed in what Walter Cronkite had to say. This year, we brought WABC Radio, the strongest station on the East Coast. At night, we hit 26 states. We want to get the truth out. Please join me tonight in this large cup to drink to journalism and to drink to the Poynter Institute of keeping our citizens informed with the truth. Cheers and support the Poynter Institute and the work they do.
Very nice, John. In fact, it looks like I need to come drinking with you. That's quite the glass. By the way, I like the fact that Chris mentioned Lake Como. We do have some accommodation in Lake Como if you just want to pop over there. Ladies and gentlemen, with all these wonderful toasts, I think it's time to announce the winner of tonight's raffle for another coincidence that Chris mentioned, a glorious $100 bottle of Italian Brunello. All right. Now I've got a winner. You ready for this? Poynter's Gala guest can get a drum roll, please, in here. Yeah, and the winner is Ren Laforme. Well done, Ren. I also want to congratulate the winner of the $100 prize. As I mentioned, that was going to be a St. Pete extravaganza like no other. And I want to announce that it was Frank Wiles. Frank, congratulations. You're going to be coming on down to St. Petersburg. We look forward to host you. May you enjoy it when you continue to celebrate reliable, quality journalism. Congratulations to the game winner there. And with that, what a celebration it has been. A fantastic evening indeed. Thank you for supporting the Poynter Institute. I'll also let you know that right now there's about 20 of those $250 matches that could go on to get one of those right field students through for a full year. Good night, everybody, and may all your news be good. Take care.